Okay, here we are. Welcome everybody to this special interview in Client Spotlight with Stephen. And I'm super excited for this because Stephen, I see you as someone who is really dedicated and focused on growing in their not only their craft but also their business. And I see the way that you show up for your business, the way you support your team. And so I'm excited to dive in and let people get a peek on just what growth you've had and the growth of your business, and your journey, both even before we started, all the way up till now, and what that's made possible for you. So what I'd like to do first is, I mean, I already said your name, but if you want to share just who you are and what you do.
Hey, I'm Stephen Lambert. I've been tattooing for 22 years. Yeah, I think. I've owned my shop for just over 11 years now. This is my second shop. I opened my first when I was 23. Um, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I think there's a lot of things, but I think like that's pretty much like the focus on what we're doing here anyway. But
Yeah, excellent.
so I think we'll just go with that.
Perfect. So, you spoke to this. You have had the current shop for just over 11 years. And what actually sparked our interview here is on one of our calls, you had this moment where you said, I've made in a month what I made my whole second year in business, or the second year of the shop. And so to me, that is worlds apart. And I think a lot of people would probably desire to create for themselves. And so I'd love to just speak about that journey, because I'm sure the way you conducted yourself, or the way that you saw things, or the way that you showed up in the beginning of your shop is very different than who you are today. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think that most things in life operate on momentum, right? So it's like put money in your IRA, right? You could put up to $7,500 a year into a Roth IRA, right? And then like it accrues at a certain percentage, and like as you add to it, like it's 6 to 10% of like seven, then like 6 to 10% of like 15 plus the interest, and like it just like keeps like gradually and consistently going up, right? So like that being said, I think that uh just like the stock market, um there can be a lot of things in your life that like you either add or subtract, and those create momentum or they create friction. And I think that those things can be people, those things can be like food, those things can be just habits, like it can be anything, right? So I think a lot of any type of success is taking stock of like what, who, and where, I don't know, uh, works for you and what doesn't, right? So I think those are big things when it all comes down to it.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question, or was that just
Yeah.
long-winded and uh,
Yeah, it did
winded and
answer the
lost?
question, because I think what I've witnessed and what we've spoken about is a lot of the changes that you've made. Like you said, they've compounded over time, and there's these areas, right? There, it could be the people, that whether it's in your shop or who you're surrounding yourself with. It could be food, like you said, the way that you're treating your body. Um, and it could be where are you going to be? Are you going to be by family? Are you going to be somewhere else? And
Mhm.
there's a lot of different areas that are take growth. And you said it could either be working for you or it could be this friction. And so I'm curious, as you look over these years since those beginning years versus where you're at now, what are some of the most important changes that you made for yourself that have helped you in your leadership and your shop growth? Because I imagine, even if it's personal changes, it probably shifts the way you show up as well and influences
Mhm.
the shop. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think one of the pitfalls of tattooing is that we kind of, for years, have always predominantly had like pretty shitty examples of how people live their life, And I think that, like, for a lot of people, it's like it was more of a fast life example, right? Like it was get money quick, spend it fast, um, work as much as you can to make as much money as possible, uh, eat shit food, like, and just kind of like enjoy like what time you have, and that's it. And everybody talks about how like they're gonna die in the chair tattooing. Now, um, that being said, I think a lot has changed from the time I started tattooing, and I've seen a lot of the old guard that came before me, and I noticed that they're not doing so hot financially, their families, their bodies, all of that stuff. So I think that I I don't remember like the exact point, but I remember going to the doctor and like finding out that like I was considered obese, right? And I realized that I just kind of felt like shit, and I was treating my body like a toilet, right? And there's a lot of moments that kind of like led up to that, but I think that was like a really good, like, strong realization. And I'll be honest, I didn't do shit to change it at first. I think like a lot of people, I think I kind of stewed in it for a while. And it took years, and like there was a lot of things that I was doing. I was smoking cigarettes. I was like drinking, just kind of living that, I don't know, like that like tattooer life. I don't know like how to really explain it. But like, like I wasn't getting drunk every night, but like I definitely had like a few beers every night. And if you look at like the caloric content of a beer, like every beer's a ham sandwich, right? So like if you're having like 3 to 5 ham sandwiches a night on top of your daily diet, that's going to lead to you being overweight, right? Like, because that's way above the caloric intake that you're supposed to have, right? And I think that when you're chronically like consuming calories, right? Like your body gets placed in this place of like lethargy in a way. And it's focused on survival and getting through like what you are personally putting it through, right? So being a sedentary tattooer sitting on my ass consuming way too much led to me feeling like crap, led to me not showing up. I always had a headache. I always had sinus issues. I had horrible sciatic pain. I didn't want to move. So I want to say somewhere around 2022, I decided to quit smoking. And in order for me to quit smoking, I had to not drink at all. So by doing that, yeah, I knew the way my brain works. If I had like one sip of beer, I'd immediately like magically appear at the 7-Eleven down the street. I'd buy cigarettes, and then I'd tell myself I was going to quit again for the next 6 months. So I was like, well, until I can quit smoking cigarettes, like I'm not going to drink anymore. And that cut out a shit ton of calories. And I wasn't even thinking about that. And I started to feel better. I started to like wake up and like feel like I actually slept. Right. And then I realized that I was just overweight. And then I joined this like online coaching program called the Agogi, and I slowly I just started working out, right? And I didn't take advantage of the diet stuff, right? So I got stronger, and I lost a little bit of weight, but I wasn't like where I wanted to be. And then I slowly but surely started to get into the diet stuff. And I'll be honest, I got into the diet stuff more because I found it was like convenient and cheaper. Um, so that I always had food at my house so that like I could save money. And the effect was I lost weight and got healthier. So I think, to be honest with you, like deciding I was going to quit smoking cigarettes after 20 years changed everything. You know, there was a lot of like events and things that like kind of led to that, but I think that like for the most part, like that was the real decision that changed it all.
Mm. Yeah, kind of like a domino, like the cascading effect.
Right, right. Because I realized like at one point that smoking cigarettes was basically like a disservice to my clients. And it made me feel bad that I was like going outside like once every couple hours and then like coming in and like breathing in their face, and they had to like sit there and like smell me like smoking cigarettes, like, or smelling like smoke. And like that was I felt like that was like wrong of me. Like I was wasting time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to waste their time. I didn't want to waste my time.
Mm. I love this because I think, you know, a lot of times people when they're wanting to grow their business, when they're wanting to make more money, they think they kind of just focus on the systems. And so I'm hearing that one of the biggest things that freed you up or freed up a lot of friction that was there was the quitting smoking, was the dropping the drinking, was the taking care of yourself, because
100%.
you wanted to have a different experience of life.
Yeah, I think like all those things, like all the things that like you're putting into your body is like how what you put in, right, is what comes out. I think like every single person has the an ability to decide like if they want their body to be a race car or if you want your body to be a Ford Pinto, right? And if you like sit there and you put like the race fuel or like the good like things into your body's going to respond to that in a positive manner. If you like do the required maintenance to yourself, your body's going to respond to that. Like because I think, and I could be wrong, uh, I think we're kind of a lot like sharks in a way. And if a shark stops moving, then the shark dies. And I think humans are a lot like that too, and I think like we all kind of see it in our like older relatives, I would say. Like you see these people in their 70s, their 80s, their 90s. Some of them can still run a marathon. Like some of them like still can hike and fish and like do things and they're a part of their community. And other people retire and they just sit down and then they just don't move. And then everything hurts. And then they're just kind of stuck there and they atrophy. And um, yeah, I don't want that. I hope no one wants that, you know? Um, yeah, I think like that type of rest can be achieved when you die.
Yeah. And are there any ways that you notice that these changes shifted your mindset, or you shifted your mindset?
So my trainer at one point made me do 400 weighted walking lunges, and Maggie, hey, Maggie, come here. Hi, Indy. What's up, Maggie? No, we're too busy protecting the household. That's fine. So my trainer at one point assigned me just it was one workout. It was 400 walking lunges, and they were weighted, and it took me hours to complete that. It was really painful, and it sucked, and I hated my life. And I think I think there was a change in my mindset in that workout. Because at first, like 400 weighted walking lunges sounds unsurmountable, right? Is that the right word? Unsurmountable?
Insurmountable, insurmountable, one of the two.
Yeah. Uh, it just feels unachievable, right? So at first, like you do 10, you do 20, whatever it is. And like you're assigned a certain weight and it's heavy and it sucks. And you're like, I fucking can't believe I'm doing this. And you keep going. And then you got to stop. And you keep going and you got to stop. And at some point, like you're 5% done. And you're like, fuck, this sucks. And then you get to 10% and you're like, oh my God, this is not working. Like, this is horrible. I've still got so many to go. And then eventually, like, you're a quarter done, you get 100 done. And you get there and you're like, okay. And at some point, you kind of have to realize that you're either going to focus on the whole number, which is pretty big, or you're going to fixate on the smaller number. And if you do that, you can get dopamine and create yourself like a little reward. And if you can find that little reward in the work and get to that point where you can pat yourself on the back, you can get through it. And I think that's where that change happened. I think that's like where is one of the times in my life where that moment where like you realize that like um in order to eat the elephant, you can only do it one bite at a time. So you have to like focus on that and you'll get through it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that helps. I'm not sure if that like works for anybody else, but I think like that's probably one of the shifts in my mindset where I realized that like doing the work, just rewarding yourself for like some small steps to get there helps.
Yeah. You know, I'm what I'm I think it's absolutely helpful because you know I imagine somebody listening to this, um, you know, in order to help them, let's say they're in that space, right? Maybe those earlier years where they're wanting to make more money, or maybe they're in their later years and they're wanting to make more money. And you're talking about how the personal changes started to shift your mindset. What are the ways that you notice that translated over into the business and into the shop for you?
Hmm. All right. So we're like, okay. So I think I had several moments in my business where we upped our prices, right? So when I first opened the shop 11 years ago, I think that like none of us would charge anybody anything more than like $300. We'd work all day long for 300 bucks. And then one day I was like, I'm going to charge 500 bucks. And I remember everybody like looked at me like you just charged $500 for a full day, right? And the thing is like we were telling people we were charging 100 bucks an hour. We were charging $120 an hour or 125. And like we never fucking charged that. We always like gave ourselves an excuse. And then I started sticking to that. And it worked. Uh and then like right around the pandemic, I decided I was gonna charge $1,000 a day. People went for it and it worked. And then I started getting coaching from Matt at one point, and it was the first class, and you know Matt asked like, "How much do you want to charge per day?" And I said $1,500 a day, and like I was right in front of 30 people, and he was like, "Oh, I'll ask you like next week, like how many, like how many people you charged like the 1,500 to," and I obviously was booked out, so it wasn't that, but I did consultations and I got $500 deposits and I started charging $1,500 a day. And I think like that was definitely like a huge change, you know, that that was definitely life changing, realizing that like if I said like I was going to charge X amount and like it was going to take time to do it, like people were either going to go for it or they weren't. And I lost a lot of clients. Um, but I found I got more people that were looking for quality, that wanted a certain thing and like a certain style of tattoo or like a certain experience. And I had to learn how to deliver that. And I think charging that led to that moment.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this because I think this is something that people definitely experience, right? Whether it's raising their charges or they see that there's another level that they could be at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing that both the changes that you were making personally, I'm hearing that the shifts in mindset helped you step into those higher levels. Um, what is the so so that's how it changed for you personally in terms of pricing. What have you noticed? uh, has it shifted the way that you mentor team members or the environment of the shop with the changes that you've made?
Hmm. Hmm. So I think, it, like anything else, like any decision you make or anything like you do is going to affect like those around you. Um, and I think that you have to teach people that their time is valuable, and like one of the things that like I tell people who work for me all the time is like, you're not the descendant of the last person to like get to the mammoth meat. Like your ancestors led you here. Like you're here for a reason, right? And you can equate you know what you're making and like what you're going after, right, is like that big prize. Just because we're not walking around like hunting for food every day doesn't mean that like the actions we're taking today like don't have the same consequence, right? So I think reframing um, questions and like reframing thoughts kind of help to bring things together, right? Because I think like what the people who come to work for me, like they have a certain level of skill, and they want to get to like that next level, and they also want to make money. So I think unfortunately a lot of people expect to like go work somewhere and just have like things come to them, right? And unfortunately that's not the way it works, right? Like people don't know what you can do until you show it to them,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I think like it's just kind of, it has changed. Like, God, there's this question so layered. I think those thoughts and like the things I learned before like have affected the way I've mentored people, but I'm not exactly sure how to put it into words. It's more like action and like implementing things when you see it and trying to guide people. Um, yeah, I think like mentorship has been one of the hardest things for me in this, right? Because I kind of feel like when you're a mentor, like you're trying to instill all your good habits, right? Like all the things that like really work for you. But when you're mentoring somebody, and like I guarantee everyone can attest to this, the people you're mentoring will pick up all your bad habits,
Mm.
right? It's kind of like having a child and they start swearing. And you're like, that's not what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to do like this, and this that like I'm really proud of. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is that the people that like you mentor will teach you all of your inconsistencies, all the things that you do wrong will be magnified.
Wow. I think that's real. I think this is really powerful because it go I think it goes to show how much of a dedicated business owner, artist, and mentor that you are, because not everyone would speak to that, right? Because whether someone is a shop owner or whether they're just a business owner unrelated to tattoos, a lot of times they think, well, if I just tell someone to do something, I expect them to do it, and that's actually what keeps them from developing to the level that they could, or growing the shop to the level that they could, because like you're talking about, there's personal changes, there's the way you're showing up, and how that trickles down to the people that you're working with.
Mhm.
And like you said, you have an incentive to do better because you doing better will impact them. And
100%, man. 100%. I think that um, you you'll basically like who you are like creates the culture around you, right? Uh, the things that like you don't correct, the things you do accept, set the standard, right? The lowest thing around you sets the standard, right? Like I think all of us like focus on our positive attributes and like the things that like we've accomplished, and like that's one moment in your life, right? Like the rest of it, the things you didn't live up to, that's your standard. The rest is like what you post, and that's your highlight reel, right? So the only way to make things better is to work on the things you're not good at,
mm,
the places and the spots where you're making mistakes. And I think that's like probably like one of the most important parts.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Because, something that's coming through to me as you're sharing this is there's the piece like you're talking about. You want to develop, you want to grow. And I'm sure there's a choice of there's some things, sometimes someone might not be good at something.
Hmm.
I think there's a difference between someone maybe not being good at something versus the thing that somebody wants to change or develop, but they're not doing. You know what I mean? Like, you might someone might not be good at something, but they might not care to change it. And maybe that doesn't necessarily impact people as much. But what I'm
Right.
hearing from you is there's things that you realized you wanted to change, you wanted to develop. And yes, maybe you stewed in it for a little bit, and then you dedicated or made a commitment to making changes, both personally, both professionally, whether that's in your own development as an artist or business owner.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, knowing that there's a standard, right? Essentially, as a leader, they're setting the standard of what's allowed, what's not allowed. But I heard something really interesting in what you were sharing, which I think applies even outside the world. I think it's just part of life, which is things aren't just going to come to you. You actually have to make the commitments and the developments.
Hmm.
And I think anybody who works with you is so lucky because you really do take a mentorship role. You really do approach it from a place of development because you're making the changes that you're wanting to make to help inspire them to make the changes they want to make. Because I imagine as you develop them, you talk about things even outside just getting more clients. Is that right? I know I just kind of painted a bit of a picture, but yeah, I'm getting the sense that the mentorship and what you provide people is beyond simply raising prices.
All right, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So I think that I have to agree. Like, I think like who you are like outside of your business is what creates the business you're in, right? Because you're not, like you're not just James the coach, right? Like you're James like the father, like you're James the husband, you're James the friend, the son, right? And like all those things, like all those pieces of the pie lead up to who you are, right? So your decisions outside are how like are what is the catalyst to you showing up today, right? And if you're going around in all those other areas of your life and like you're fudging it all up, how you're going to show up today to this moment is going to show. You might not think it will. Some people put on a fucking profound mask and think it really works. But people see through it, man. People will fucking call you out. And that's really where, like, being a mentor, like, that's really where it fucking happens. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to over the years that, like, tell me, like, how their mentor did, like, one thing or another, like, over the years. And it definitely fucking hits home. It really does. So I think we're all striving to be better.
Mm.
I think most people are just kind of stuck, and until you find, like, that light in the work,
Hmm.
that light in the struggle, then you'll be stuck. You know, yeah. I don't know why this is coming to me at the moment, but Joseph Campbell,
Mm.
know who that is?
I'm not super familiar, but I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, the heroes, like that clock he created, right? The hero's journey.
Hmm.
Like, if you want to be the hero of the story, you kind of have to show up as an idiot. You gotta fumble your way through it, and, like, you have to find, like, your Obi-Wan or your Gandalf or whatever Harry Potter teacher you want to grab a hold of this week. But, like, all those stories have, like, the same arc and the same trajectory. And I think that, like, we all show up like babies, malleable, not knowing everything, but also, like, profoundly stubborn,
Mm.
because, like, we may know one thing and we're going to stick to that one thing. We're going to grind it into the ground until someone shows you otherwise, right? And I think, like, that's a huge part of uh, becoming better at anything, is realizing that you don't know anything
Hmm.
and trying to go forward,
Yeah.
searching for the better way.
Do you are there for yourself, and if let's say another business owner or an artist is listening to this, what would you say the qualities are that you would encourage them to have to show up, to be open to receive, to develop from whoever they're either being mentored by, or if they're looking for a mentor or coach, whatever it might be? What are the qualities that you found most useful for yourself?
What are the qualities that, like, I want them to have in order to show up?
What are the qualities that you showed up with that made it possible to learn and develop? Because I think if somebody, when someone, which I think with any learning, right, we can kind of feel like an idiot, but at some point we kind of have to be like, well, I want to change things. I need to be open in some way. So when I say qualities, I mean, what are the ways that you showed up, or the mindset that you showed up with that allowed you to take things on, to develop, to learn, as opposed to um, someone who says they want something different, but they aren't actually showing up in that way. Does that make sense?
Um, you have to have the need for a change,
Mm.
right? Um, you have to want to succeed. You have to want to uh, make progress. I'm. I don't really know, like, exactly, like, how to answer that question for you. I think that's, like, something that, like, you're either going to want to take in information and implement it into your life and make a change, or you won't.
Hmm.
And I think that some people probably have, you know, bookshelves in their homes filled with books they've never read. I think some people have watched Tony Robbins videos or Eric Thomas or I don't know, a slew of different self-help people or coaches and like never implemented anything they said. Like they just like the cadence and like the music behind it pumps them up.
Hmm.
And the thing is that um, most of it is just showing up with an open mind and then taking action because someone can tell you all the ways to do anything, and if you don't do it, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Right. Now, I'm curious because we've talked about development and we're talking about coaching here, and we've been coaching together for a bit. What would you say the benefits have been um, for you from our coaching?
I think having someone to listen to the things that are going on in your business and like coming at it from an outside point of view helps a lot because I think all of us got into that business because we love it, right? I don't think a chef starts a restaurant because he wants to be an administrator. I don't think I opened a tattoo shop to, I don't know, think about like all the furniture, the placement, like how things should be. I don't think any of that stuff's fun. I came into it because I just wanted a tattoo, and it grew, and I'm lucky that it did, and it's worked. But at a certain point, uh, you have to look at it from like the outsider's point of view to make things better.
Hmm.
And I think like that's where like any type of like coaching comes in. Like somebody who can kind of like point out your flaws, point out like what you're doing wrong, and the holes in your thought. Because I think a lot of us get trapped in cycles of thought, and it's good to have like that outside point of view. Because I think what happens is a lot of times like people feel stuck, and all you need is just that like one little thing to get unstuck. Being from the Northeast, we get a lot of snow, right? So if you're not from here, right, this is a new situation to you, and you're stuck on the side of the road, sometimes all you need is like someone to throw like a little bit of sand underneath one of your tires for you to get that traction, right? But if no one said that to you, you're just going to get stuck, And I think that's what coaching can do. It's like the little thing that like kind of helps you get further.
I love that. And yeah, I love that. What would you tell someone who, if somebody's never had a coach before, and I think you answered it in a way. Um, is there anything you'd tell someone who hasn't had a coach before? Or it's something that they're new to.
Hmm. Um. Hmm. What would I tell them? Like if it's something they're thinking of doing, or if it's something that like they just started, like, or if
Yeah.
they're
So maybe they're wanting to make changes, or they're wanting to reach a different level, and they haven't had direct coaching before. Is there anything that you would tell them or you think they should know?
Hmm. Well, I would tell them to like sit down and write down what they want to get out of it, and then try to go over with that person like where they're showing up and where they're not showing up, and tell them that if they're getting uncomfortable, like that's the point to start. Like we don't get better by doing the comfortable thing. That's why you're here. That's why you're in that same spot, is because you're comfortable.
Mm.
And that like to get uncomfortable, I know I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Like that's kind of where the growth happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. I think you're spot on. Um, and to clarify, our sessions are not me just going, Stephen, here's all your flaws. Uh,
Mhm.
to clarify for anybody. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I love this. And I really appreciate making the time for this today, Stephen, because I think this is going to help so many people, especially artists or business owners who are wanting to make changes. And you sharing your journey, I think, really can help someone see the difference that makes and the way that compounds over time.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate, yeah, just who you are, the way you show up, the way you show up in the world and even in your shop to mentor your team. I think you're exceptional at what you do.
Mhm. Awesome, man. Thank you.
You got it. Perfect. So thank you, everybody. And um, this was fun.
All right, awesome. Have a great day. Peace.
Bye.